So welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming. Happy to see everyone. And I think we'll just go ahead and start um, with a little bit of a silent sit and maybe just a little, I might do a tiny bit of guiding just to kind of get us here. And then we'll see what's in store. Okay, let's sit for a few minutes. So in this moment together, we have the opportunity and the invitation to lend ourselves to what is and the here and now of right here. We've set aside our to-do lists and our other interests and our faceted and beautiful lives to just sit with each other in a intention of discovery, exploration, into the unknowingness of the great mystery that enlivens and gives rise to every here and now. And sometimes it takes a bit for the mind and the body to kind of catch up to the intention. So we just allow for that. The wandering mind, the settling in physicality, we can use the body actually just to kind of get here. The breath is right here, always. The heart beating, the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet, the top of the head, the tailbone. The screen, the Zoom session, Jen's voice, the air and the space in the room. just allowing for a settling into the immediacy of right here and right now. We don't have to push away thoughts or ideas, stories, narration, intellectualization. We just real gently and kind of naturally, simply but with vitality and engagement, allow the attention to fall down out of the mind stream and just arrive into the immediacy of the experience here and now. Just give Jan a chance to get back to her seat. Just going to ring this one more time. I'm actually pretty curious to see where this goes today, because stuff has been coming forward for sure, but I'm not exactly sure how it's going to weave. One of the things I did want to explore a little bit more, talk a little bit more about is the notion, I guess you might say, or the word, what we mean by surrender. It's an often used term in spirituality, and just given, you know, some of the conversations I've had, not necessarily within this course, but it feels like it's kind of misunderstood a little bit as well. I think there's a pervading sort of notion in the intellect that if we surrender, number one, it's to something outside of ourselves, that we, you know, kind of have to lay down. Often there's even sort of like this fantasy in the mind that, you know, if you're a spiritually awake, if you've awakened to the primordial ground, you're just a doormat after that. You're just, you know, like those toys where you squeeze the bottom and the whole, like, little horse or whatever it is just like goes, you know, House of Cards or whatever. So there's that kind of going, you know, narrative connotation of the word. And then I also think that it can conjure up this scenario where a person just sort of throws up their hands and says, oh yeah, you know, it's all an illusion and what the hell, it doesn't, none of it matters, my values don't matter, it's all okay, it's all good. That's the one that just really slays me. That we are, you know, sort of, when you hear a teacher or a teaching say we're surrendered to what is, the intellect almost has no other way of interpreting that other than like, oh, okay, you know, almost like a victim stance. It's useful, I think, to remember that the word is pointing to the surrender to what one fundamentally is. Not not something outside, not some imposed dogma or set of criteria, I guess you might say, and not necessarily the events of the relative phenomena either. I mean, it's challenging to describe the giving way, the being an instrument, you might say. But even that is too strong of language, because it immediately implies two, otherness, this, that. But surrendering to the fundamental, essential truth of one's being is to awaken from the ideas of what that means and to just be what it is. We can't hold it, make space for it, try all the stuff. It's really discovered in being what is. And it sounds a little, I don't know what it just kind of sounds a little silly almost, like, what, But if we just take the seed of that as to sort of relieve the anxiety of the thinking mind as to what it might look like, what that might actually mean, and we have kind of trust and faith in the surrendering to one's own authenticity of being, it can relax the system. It can relax the system from all the ideas of what it might mean. And that opens a door of perception, really. Deep relaxation and dropping the attention from the what if scenarios and what will mean scenarios and all of that stuff. The intellectualizing of spiritual awakening is a door into the reality. And kind of a reason, I guess you might say, it's not really like that. It's not that strong. It's more just like following the flow of water, but of teaching a class like this, The Awakened Heart, is that the view, the perception, you might say, the view, the way, as that from our primordial meaning no beginning, no end, beginningless, endless, primordial. The primordial heart, the primordial beingness is, the view is one of indivisibility. It's not really even, there was a phase where the words unified, oneness made some sense. But it's really, you can't really enumerate something that's indivisible. It's whole. It's total. And that's the view. So it's suffused with all of the, all of the beautiful things every one of you has been expressing to me. Um, Compassion, forgiveness, courage, beauty, without manufacturing that. Gratitude, spontaneous, uncaused, inherent. So the word surrender it's actually a really beautiful pointer. It has a lot of the flavor of the actuality, because like if you think of somebody waving the white flag, like enough, I surrender. There definitely is that quality to spiritual awakening. I mean, I sincerely hope that none of you have had to, be bonked on the head as hard as I had to. I had to be bonked. I mean, you know, it was a true case of I surrender out of basically, hitting rock bottom, which does not have to happen for everybody at all, but it often does. You just get so like if you've been physically ill for, maybe none of you have, but you probably have at some point in your life, and it like stretches on like it's a course of 7 to 10 days, or maybe even 2 weeks, like a sinus infection or something. And when you're starting to get better, when you finally just go, I'm just so sick and tired of being sick and tired, It's that kind of surrender of just, okay. So we can talk about letting go, or I can't even think of off the top of my head some of the other words that are used interchangeably, but really surrender has it has a nice flavor to it. It's kind of accurate in a certain, it's fairly precise, because it also kind of implies a bit of sacrifice, a bit of humility. But we can reassure our intellect that it's not to, because culturally, and just even the collective consciousness and everything, with the whole like separation of God and humanity and all of that, even if we never believed it, it's kind of infiltrated in there in the synapses, And so you hear a word like surrender and it's like, well, to what? I mean, any good critically thinking human being is going to say, wait a minute. And good job, wait a minute. Surrender to what? But it's one's own light, one's own wisdom, the wisdom of being. It's shared, it's universal. It's beyond personal, and yet it manifests totally uniquely in each and every event of surrender. And it won't look like, it kind of comes back to that, what we've been exploring together, the landscape, you might say, beyond good and bad. and any notion of that. A person awake, spiritually awake, you know, a person who has discovered the deeper identity, the self with a capital S, lives as a human being with notions of what are my values? What do I want to see? Kindness, recycling, taking care of the planet, you know, whatever it is. Whatever it is, whatever it is. Higher consciousness of the art of human living and relationship. But one also discovers that in the complete surrender of all of that, all of it, all of it, consciousness itself, consciousness as such, beingness itself, life itself as such, has the intention, you might say, of harmony and evolved love that is beyond human value systems. The evolution of consciousness itself. The evolution of consciousness through the embodiment of love. Not what we think of necessarily as love, but primordial, beginningless and endless, uncaused, ever givingness. Right now, right now, right now, right now, happening. Coming into being, coming into being, coming into being, coming into being. Always. We're not generating any of it. We're not creating any of it with our values or anything else. It's happening. Not quite the right word, but nowing, ising. It has an agenda, you might say. It's not even that. Intention and agenda are notions. It's a natural, inherent tendency, power, movement. It's what it does. Like the heart beats. Is that the intention of the heart? Is that the agenda of the heart? Or does the heart beat? Consciousness evolves. And this can be lived experientially and directly. Surrendered to and as. You give way. Like, you can't hold back the tide. You may as well go. You may as well go. But, and I did want to bring this forward, the physical, and this does, I'm never trying to push an experience onto anybody. Like, I do feel moved to say this today. Most spiritual teachers, I don't know, maybe not most, I don't know, maybe I should talk about me, are not looking for mini-me's or surrounding themselves with yes people. Well, yes to yes, but not yes to, Jen Tyler. Like, it's got to look like it. It's got to sound like it. I do use quite a few anecdotes because they just come forward. And I like to hear them from teachers. And somehow or another, like, it threads the humanity through it. But everybody is uniquely set up for, hooked up as their beautiful, beautiful, you can't describe how, it's indescribably beautiful, the unique facets of the rainbow of reality. It's indescribable, right? I mean, if you see that, you're ever changed. You're not the same person after seeing that. So, if I say that the physical unwinding, opening of the heart can be intense, it doesn't have to be, but it is for a lot of people. It is sometimes kind of loaded with intensity of overwhelming emotion, roller coaster of emotion, memory, fear in the nervous system, even like actual physical heart symptoms. A lot of us have had that, arrhythmias. Doesn't have to be, does not have to be. But I want to say, if that does and is happening, it surrendering to what is so you can frame the context and instill some kind of trust in the physicality, like, it's okay. Like we talked about last time, fear, no danger. Just fear, no danger. Unless it's really dangerous, and then you got to make a move. Like, get some motherwort, some valerian, or, I don't know. Call me. It can feel, our intensity is in our emotions a lot of times, right? Like, when the intensity's in the ideas, that's a certain thing. It's a certain thing. But when that then is, the intensity of the idea is then believed, and all the physiology, like, those of you who have studied like biology of belief and biology of emotion, it's real. It's like getting an IV drug. I mean, it like downloads hormones, endorphins, all of it. And when that hits the system, now that's intensity, right? It's really different than just holding a really rigid intellectual thing in a very objective, sort of removed aloof manner. No. When then that goes into the emotional body, and the physical cells, the nervous system, can be really intense. The only way is through, guys. It's just, that's the deal. The only way is through. What we resist persists. And honestly, you know, I mean, every single one of my teachers has talked about kind of, you might want to say, harrowing experiences with the opening of the heart. You know, Adya talks about sitting there in retreat and having it, he just thought his heart was going to like explode. Or, you know, that's it, okay, good day to die. Does not have to happen that way. It can. It often does. There's often a lot of intensity with what we describe as heart opening, which is the personal emotional body surrendering to the inextinguishable flame of the primordial heart. The mother of our being. You know, and in that, I want to break that word down just a little bit. We can all have many, 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 many ideas about the word mother, right? However, the Divine Mother is beyond gender. It's beyond any notion of masculine, feminine, beyond truly anything we can say about it, but it's experienced very often as fire. The heart of the heart of the heart of matter. I'm going to maybe just read this. Beyond ideas of gender or human roles, closer than any abstract idea could ever be, the Divine Mother is the fount of compassion and wisdom, the wellsprings, the ever-giver, the immediacy, the presence. To discover this as our own true nature is revolutionary, because we can finally forgive ourselves for being human and realize ourselves as life incarnate. We can accept our inherent worth, surrender the myth of unlovability, stop comparing ourselves to the image of perfection we carry around in our heads, and bring all the parts and pieces into conscious lovingness. Nothing needs to be turned away, exiled into shadow. The pleaser can step down. The Mother, the Divine Mother, she who dances, the Holy Spirit, Sophia, Divine Wisdom, Prajna Paramita, Mother of Creation, Shakti, uncaused love, kindness, Kali Ma. I really like what the Sri Vivekananda had to say. The 5 elements are only her tools for fashioning the universe and obey her will. She is never restricted to the physical universe alone, but instead remains fully detached, yet intrinsically involved. A baffling secret which only she knows how to implement. Everything is always within, even as it comes out of her. Always within, even as it is born. She is the living reality underlying and animating all sentient and insentient beings, objects, perpetually existing as their very essence, and is therefore the conceiver of all concepts, the symbol for all symbols, the eternal subject. She is Shakti, pure and changeless, transcendent and genderless, permeating everything with limitless consciousness. The heart, the eternal heart, is just another way. However you can hear it, I've tried to present different vocabulary, you might say, during this course so that everyone's mind can, find a place to rest. But the eternal heart, the Divine Mother, and no matter how we process or intellectualize that word, it is like the word surrender. It does have a flavor. For number one, the experience is that. The direct experience when you bump into it is very obviously she who animates. Ma. But we all, every one of us, were born into our individuality through the darkness of our mother's womb. Everyone. So it's kind of a universal word, even though it's beyond the personal expression, beyond Mother Earth, Mother Nature. It is she who gives rise to all of that. And the archetypes, which are the kind of blueprints of the psyche that sort of bridge the they're like sort of the bridge between absolute and relative. The archetypes that come out of this experience are often universal. I mean, once one is awakened to all of this, it's, you find it all over the place, the rose, Mother Mary, the Madonna, all the archetypal expressions and symbols that are contained in the psyche to give expression to something that is inherently ineffable, non-expressible, other than what is. I bring that forward because I've had a few, a few of you, you know, say you're kind of bumping into those archetypes. And I would say that's the wisdom of your soul's intelligence and guidance. Not necessarily something you need to surrender or outside of yourself surrender to. Like that's a thing now. Like there she is, the Madonna, and all. You can't, I mean, I build altars everywhere all the time. That's just like my thing. But that doesn't have to be the thing. They are expressions within the psyche of the soul and guides in the sense of guidance from one's soul and heart and spirit and unique expression. It can be really helpful to listen to those expressions as they move forward in consciousness. They can come out of nowhere and you may not even know what they are, but we all have Google and all that, so you can find out. I didn't know what many, I was just like there was really this stream of consciousness of like wild looking beings that I'm going, what the heck? Who knew? But it was like the entire Hindu pantheon had like downloaded into my consciousness. I mean, I didn't know why, but as I listened, it became obvious and very useful assistance, like soul assistance, and it may not happen that way for you, but it can. And it sounds like it is for a few of you. Symbols come from a different part of our system than, words are symbols. That's all they are. But we just take them as reality. Every one of us can easily see that a word is an abstraction of a reality. But when it comes to like maybe other types of symbols and abstractions, it can be a little bit like, what? Useful. So in our lending to this discovery, this exploration, this calling, really, when your heart calls, the mind, in the sense of intellect and namer, narrator, divider, accountant, keeping the score, all the stuff. It's helpful, I get it, in a lot of circumstances, but in this particular one, it's not the tool. And I know I've said it, and I know you know it. But when we are opening, as we become more available and better skilled at listening listening to the other dimensions and aspects of our being. And the heart has an avenue, a clear channel, like when you fine tune the radio dial. The expression can be kind of intense. It can send the nervous system into a bit of a tailspin, because many of us have not really mined that gold. We're all fairly intellectually skillful, just having grown up in this culture. And I mean, sometimes the mind can really run us around, and many of us are very skilled in our hearts as well, and have lent our lives to, our best attempts at caringness, compassion, kindness, all the virtues, you might say, our values, our deepest values of love and expressions of love. But we kind of generally hit walls when we are trying to manufacture the entire thing. We hit up against these walls of defendedness, compensation, conditioning. Something happens, there's a sense of vulnerability and risk, and very, very quickly, it's rapid, comes the justification, defendedness, all the stories, all the stuff. And I suppose what I'm maybe trying to point to today is just the abundance of assistance from our own true selves that is there for us to rely upon, trust in, have faith in. That you can just really give yourself to that. It's knocking on our door because of a wisdom moving beyond the intellect. It may not feel like it because of the intensity, and sometimes it's a learned thing. It was here. The nervous system had to upgrade. It had to upgrade. It had to upgrade out of PTSD. It had to upgrade out of base of the brain, sort of reptilian reactionary stuff. It had to upgrade. The physicality had to build new avenues of wiring to sort of stay present with what is, without needing the kind of aversion, desire, nature to mediate. I don't want that. Okay, yeah, I like that. Not that we have to completely surrender choice. We can still have preference. But what is what is. I was wired most definitely, deeply with PTSD. Post-traumatic, whatever they call that. A nervous system full of like belief in danger and loss of survival and intense feeling being a warning, like, that's hot, don't put your hand there. And all of that kind of had to be sorted out because it had gone too far. You know, when I was a body worker, I worked with a lot of people who had whiplash, just from life, you know. A lot of us do, just from whatever accidents or whatever. And, you know, the response in the nervous system and the muscles around the spinal cord in whiplash is 100% survival. It's heroic. It saves lives. That's what it does. It saves your life. But then it can't stop saving your life. It just is in this position of, oh hell no, we're not letting go. It's life-threatening, and it's all noble, see? We get these backdoor superego things of like, oh, why couldn't I let go? Or, you know, I should have, would have, could have. It's protective. It's survival. It's heroic is the word that comes to mind, and always used to come to mind when I was working on people's necks. And we would just work together to release the hero. It's okay. You know? Anyway, the embodiment of, well, what did we call this course? The awakening to the heart of being, finding freedom to love. The embodiment is the evolutionary movement, natural. So consciousness becomes conscious. Love becomes conscious. Absolute love becomes conscious. Evolutionary love becomes conscious. Conscious of itself as itself. Awake to itself as itself. But that is generally, unless you were just born with it, which, you know, maybe some of you were, that's generally a shift of not only mind, heart, occupancy, the view, but the physicality as well. It's all the same. It's all the same. It's all the same. You can start coming down with all kinds of things. You know who's hysterical to listen to about this is Dr. Hawkins, because the list was wildly long. I mean, surgery, and he knew, that he had the context. But the unwinding was just dramatic. I mean, at one lecture, I don't know if I was there or if I saw it on YouTube or whatever, he like lists out all the things that, you know, were coming forward in the physicality in response to the unveiling. not all of us have to go down this path, guys. And you might be a person who's just super grounded and embodied and are going, what the heck is she talking about? But I'm bringing it forward because a lot of the people who end up generally sitting in front of me do have some physical rearranging. That's probably maybe why they find me, because I most definitely had physical rearranging. Down to the DNA, like I like to say. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing. The Divine Mother is gifting, you might say, this moment right now. The whole of reality, guys. Universes, dimensions, inconceivable, boundless, eternal conception. So eventually the mind kind of has to give into that, has to kind of go, okay, I guess you got this. Until then, we just think we're orchestrating the whole thing. It's so funny. And not. I mean, I know. But it's kind of funny. One time at a Sharon Landreth retreat that I think Jim and Barb were both at as well, Jane, one of Sharon's oldest friends, was retreat leader. And she got up there one day, and the retreat leader generally kind of gives a little guidance themselves, and Jane was like, "Dear Jane," no, it was a letter from God to Jane. "Dear Jane, I won't be needing your help today. God." I got the biggest kick out of that. It was so simple and clear. And she does, or however you want to, we have limited pronouns. It's beyond gender. But let's just say the Divine Mother, life, whatever, source, primordial source, does need our help, however. It needs our consciousness to discover itself, because without it, it has no self-awareness, no reflection, no reflection. The eye can't see itself without a reflection. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of human beingness. And the Achilles. Okay. I don't really know what our timing normally looks like, but let's go ahead. We're about just like an hour and 10 into it, so let's take a 15-minute break. I guess you might call it a healing meditation. It's something that I do for myself, and if I'm fortunate enough to be able to work with other people's physicalities again, I'll be doing it. But also, just even in the Zoom session one-on-ones, I'm, I guess, utilizing this this meditation. It's for deep healing, restoration, nurturing, enveloping. Remember, the words are not something you need to hang on to or process, intellectualize. You'll have a recording of it. You can always listen to it again. Just try and allow, maybe listen, be. Here we go. So just begin by envisioning with your mind's eye your heart. Your attention. This golden, radiant, luminous fabric of reality that surrounds and envelops and weaves through everything, the space in the room, the individual body, the objects, the breath, golden, radiant, like being on the beach at noon. It's all around, flowing through every fiber, every thread, every cell, every atom, every subatomic particle, and all the way out through space and the atmosphere, the universe. And in the center, the still, silent center. From which the luminous fabric is perceived and seen and experienced. The clear, aware, transparent center. There is a vertical channel rising up, flowing down. The channel itself is born from and permeated through and through and through, and as this golden, luminous, radiant radiance, presence. Just envision that central channel in the body from the tip of the tailbone to the top of the head. Luminous, effervescent, golden radiance. You can feel it coming down, in, through the top of the head, and up, through, and in from the tip of the tailbone. Simultaneously ebbing and flowing, radiantly permeating the entire body. You can sense or even actually see the radiant particles and effervescent, almost pieces, bubbles of it moving outward from the central channel into all the cells, flowing downward, a golden fountain, in through the top of the head, up through the tailbone, permeating outward, out through the chest, the torso, the pelvis, down the legs, out the arms, the front body, the back body, all around, everywhere. All bodies, the physical body, the emotional body, the energetic body, the intellect, all dimensions of the being permeated, enveloped. With this dazzling, radiant, luminescent life, presence. Just sensing that flow through the central channel. The fullness of it, how it enlivens, animates, restores. You can really sense just the actual pouring in through the top of the head, and simultaneously the rising up through the pelvis, and the radiating boundless, eternal, undiminished. There's never an absence of it or a not enough quality. If there's a aspect of the physicality or even the intellect, the emotional body that feels raw, tender, painful, use the attention to follow the stream of golden, radiant aliveness from the central channel outward or inward to the area of pain. Invite the entirety of your being to be bathed in this love. This ever-isness. And the body, the whole body, not just our individual expression that seems to stop at the skin, but the body of existence, the I am. We can attend to and lend our attention to the outpouring of this inextinguishable, undiminishable, eternal and infinite flow of goodness, life, love, as it streams outward into all expressions, the entire body, the wholeness. And we can sense this directly in our individual body, which is the mirror of the body. And consciously move with, from, through, as, luminous light. The mother of all being, pouring into, rising up as we can sense it in each and every cell within this particular expression, and within each and every cell of the totality. There is no difference. There is no separation. If the mind is wandering, it's completely natural. Minds wander. The radiant presence, the Divine Mother, is giving birth to, giving way to, gifting the wandering mind into existence, just like every other expression. We can return our attention to that central vertical channel, and the stillness, the silence, the core. Our essence, life's essence. Never far or distant or unavailable, closer than close. It's the very fabric, the very essence of who we are. Emerging, returning, emerging, returning, and all the emergence and all the returning within and as the source, the dance of emptiness, the fullness of being. I love you guys. It's been a real joy, a very deep joy. I hope you guys keep in touch. That's always really nice for me.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, BZ. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you, Jen.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Bye.
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 Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you, Jill.
Bye, Jen. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Jill.
Thank you. Keep in touch.